Dr. Leone, she breathed, voice barely holding. Please tell me there's someone, anyone who can help him. The older doctor's face tensed with professional restraint. He glanced through the observation window before stepping closer, lowering his voice. We've exhausted the entire West Coast registry. Isaac's blood type is AB negative, rare enough on its own, but combined with the Duffy negative antigen, we're down to less than 2% of the population. We've checked extended donors, even tried international banks. Hello, my beautiful family. Welcome to Love and Twilight with Dr. Phillips, the place, where every story is more than just words. It's a heartbeat that connects us all. Before we begin today's journey, I'd love to know you're here with me. Drop "I'm with you, Dr. Phillips" in the comments so I can feel your presence. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready for today's story. Kindly subscribe so you never miss the love and light we share. Gianna's heart clutched painfully inside her chest. The words came slowly, like lifting a boulder from her throat. What does that mean? Dr. Leone looked straight at her. We need a biological parent. Her knees gave slightly. She reached for the wall. The white corridor suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the air had been vacuumed out. There is someone, she whispered. But he doesn't know. Dr. Leone didn't flinch. Then it's time he does. Gianna stumbled down the corridor, her heels clicking on the tile like panic drums. Her breath came in short, rapid bursts. She fumbled her phone from her purse and stared at the name that had haunted her every dream and every sleepless night. Sebastian Vale. The contact was still saved. Of course it was. No matter how many times she swore she'd delete it. Her fingers hovered. Her thumb shook. All those years of silence. All those moments she could have told him the truth. Every single one. Buried under fear, shame, and her stubborn need for independence. Now Isaac needed him. No, needed his blood. Not his money. Not his name. Just a match. She tapped the call button. 1 ring, 2, then Sebastian Vale. His voice was deeper, rougher, like aged bourbon with razor edges, but still him. Her knees nearly gave out again. It's Gianna. Silence, heavy, weighted with 8 years of pain. Gianna. He exhaled hard. Jesus Christ. Where are you? No time. I need your blood type. My. What? Your son, Isaac. He's in the ICU. He has a rare blood disorder. He needs a transfusion. AB negative, Duffy negative antigen. Please, Sebastian. He's your only chance. A pause. Then a sharp inhale. I'll be there in an hour. The hospital's private helipad roared to life. Nurses in scrubs shielded their eyes as the white and gray chopper landed like a machine of war. The door flew open and out stepped Sebastian Vale, taller than memory, broader than rumor, a force of black wool and confidence. His dark eyes scanned the emergency wing like a man on a mission. He spotted her. She hadn't seen him in nearly a decade, but her body remembered instantly. The way he walked, precise. The way his presence filled every inch of the room, total. He approached fast. Where is he? He demanded. No greeting, no small talk, no permission. Gianna pointed toward the glass ICU panel. He looked through, and the world, for Sebastian Vale, fell out from under his feet. Isaac's sleeping face was too familiar. The same angular jaw, the same furrowed brow when deep in thought, even in unconsciousness. Even the way his lips curved, like a younger, smaller echo, a perfect reflection. Sebastian stared in silence, 1,000 realizations colliding at once. That's my... Gianna nodded slowly. Yes, that's your son. He didn't turn, just kept staring. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracked. Because you were already engaged. Because I didn't want to be a scandal or a pity case. He turned then, his eyes full of thunder. You think I wouldn't have wanted to know? I thought you had enough people in your life telling you what to do. I didn't want to be another voice asking for anything. His voice broke. He's my son, Gianna. She swallowed. Hard, and I've loved him enough for both of us, every single day. A nurse appeared behind them. Mr. Vale, we'll need you for testing. He followed without hesitation. Gianna remained alone in the hallway, shaking, breathing like each inhale was a war. The silence returned, but not peace. Just the waiting, the watching, the wondering if fate had finally caught up with her choices. An hour later, Dr. Leone stepped into the waiting room. He was smiling. Perfect match. The hallway outside the ICU was quiet now. The kind of quiet that buzzed in Gianna's ears, loud with things unsaid. She sat slumped on the edge of a plastic chair, her palms pressed together in silent prayer. Not for forgiveness. Not anymore. She'd made her choices. And today, those choices had a face, Isaac's. She prayed he'd make it through the night. Just as the weight in her chest started to become unbearable, footsteps returned, firm, controlled, powerful. Sebastian. His suit jacket hung open, his tie undone. The dress shirt beneath was rolled at the sleeves, revealing the bandage at his elbow. He'd given his blood without flinching, without hesitation, without resentment. She looked up, and for a brief second her breath hitched. Time had sharpened him. The sharp jawline was carved harder now. His once slick hair had a streak of gray at the temple. But his eyes? Still fierce, still restless, still him. He's stable now, he said. She exhaled, a fragile sigh wrapped in 8 years of fear. Thank you, she murmured. Sebastian didn't respond right away. His gaze drifted down the hallway, to the doors leading back into the ICU. He looks just like me. I know. And he draws? Leone said he has sketch pads by the bed. She nodded. He's always been visual, ever since he could hold a crayon. He sees the world in shapes and shadows. He took that in silently, his jaw tight. Does he know? He asked. No, Gianna whispered. He only knows his donor was a match. I haven't told him anything else. Sebastian paced a slow step away, then turned back. You should have told me, Gianna. I know. You robbed me of 8 years. Her chin lifted. I was trying to save him from the life that broke me. That wasn't your choice to make. Yes, it was. Her voice cracked again. You think I didn't want to call? That I didn't spend night after night staring at your name and wondering if I was doing the right thing? Then why didn't you? Gianna swallowed hard. Because you were on the cover of every magazine holding hands with Clarissa Dunn, heir to the Dunn real estate dynasty. Because every headline called you the next king of the pharmaceutical world. Because there wasn't room for a baby and a consultant you barely knew in that narrative. Sebastian flinched. Gianna pressed on. I didn't want my son to be a secret, or a scandal, or another pawn in someone else's corporate legacy. So I left. I built something for us. I would have left it all. You didn't even call. He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. The truth hung between them like smoke. Thick, choking. Finally she stood. If this is going to be a shouting match, go home. He doesn't need the noise. Sebastian's tone softened, barely above a whisper. I'm not going anywhere. She blinked, caught off guard. I want to stay, he said. Not just tonight. I want to be here. For him. Her breath caught in her throat. I didn't come just to donate blood. I came because something in your voice told me everything had changed. I was wrong 8 years ago, Gianna. I know that now. Gianna stared at him, chest rising and falling. She searched his face for lies, found none. Then, the faintest crack in her guarded shell. You don't get to walk back in and claim what you left behind. I'm not asking for a claim, he said, stepping closer. I'm asking for a chance. They stood inches apart now, so close she could smell the expensive cologne beneath the antiseptic air. So close she could feel the heat of his body and the rage of years lost. She should have walked away, but she didn't, because part of her had never stopped waiting. She turned her face away, fighting tears. I don't know what to do with you, she whispered. Start by letting me be his father. A beat passed. Then another. Finally she nodded, barely. A nurse interrupted them quietly. You can see him now. He's awake. Both parents turned. Sebastian's face tightened. His hand clenched at his side. Gianna led the way through the doors. Inside the ICU, Isaac blinked slowly. His little chest rose and fell beneath the wires. The sketch pad was still by his side, filled with bold pencil lines and half-finished shadows. Gianna knelt by his side. Hey, baby. His lips curled faintly. Hey, Mom. Then his eyes drifted to Sebastian. He frowned, confused. Gianna hesitated. This is someone who helped us today. He gave you something very important. Isaac looked from her to Sebastian. You look like me, he said softly. Sebastian's eyes filled, but he nodded. Gianna forced a smile. He's going to be around a little more. Isak blinked slowly, too tired to process, too trusting to question it. Okay, he whispered. And just like that, a door opened. Not wide, not welcoming, but enough. The sun was setting behind the skyline when Sebastian returned to the ICU. Gianna was still seated beside the bed, gently stroking Isak's hand as he dozed in and out. The boy had managed a few sips of water, a faint smile earlier, but exhaustion quickly reclaimed him. Sebastian paused at the threshold of the room. He didn't speak. He just watched. For the first time in his life, he saw something he hadn't earned, but desperately wanted. His son. His chest tightened at the thought. That word used to feel like some distant promise, the kind of thing that came after deals and deadlines. But now, looking at this boy, the mirror of his own younger self, everything inside him rearranged. He stepped inside. Gianna didn't turn around. She didn't have to. I didn't think you'd come back tonight. I wasn't going to leave, he said quietly. Not after seeing him. Not after knowing. She exhaled slowly, but didn't answer. Sebastian took the chair beside her and sat down heavily. The silence wasn't as cold this time. It was laced with something older, something unresolved. I watched him sleep, he said finally, and I felt it. Something I didn't think was possible for me. What? Love without condition. Gianna's eyes stayed on their son. He's always had that. I know. He looked down at the small fingers resting above the IV line. He draws? She nodded. Obsessively, late at night, on the bus, on walls, once. She smiled faintly. He sees everything, then tries to make sense of it with a pencil. Sebastian's voice dipped. I did the same thing at his age, sketching blueprints on napkins. I used to trace the angles of my father's office. I couldn't explain it. I just needed to build something. Gianna looked at him then, softly, unexpectedly. You gave him that. He met her gaze. You gave him everything else. Their eyes held, not in blame, not in regret, just in the weight of what was never said. Then Isak stirred. His eyelids fluttered open, hazy. Gianna leaned in. Hi, baby. Thirsty, he murmured. She reached for a straw and guided the cup to his lips. He took small sips. Then his eyes moved, slowly, to Sebastian. He stared. Longer, this time. Who's he? The boy asked. Gianna glanced at Sebastian. The unspoken moment had arrived. Sebastian leaned forward gently. I'm a friend, he said. Isak squinted. You look like me. Gianna's fingers froze on the cup. Sebastian smiled softly. I noticed that too. Did you draw when you were little? Isak asked. All the time. The boy nodded, satisfied. Cool. And just like that, he closed his eyes again. Not suspicious, not afraid, just content. Sebastian's throat burned. Later, outside the room, Gianna leaned against the wall, arms folded tight. Sebastian stood across from her, his hands deep in his pockets. He's smart, he said. He's everything. Silence. Then, why didn't you ever marry? He asked. She looked up slowly. Because I didn't want to give him someone half invested. And I never met a man who didn't flinch when they found out I was a single mother. Sebastian exhaled sharply. They were idiots. Maybe. Or maybe they saw that I'd already been claimed by a ghost I could never outrun. He blinked. Me. She didn't answer. Sebastian took a step forward. Let me be in his life, Gianna. Whatever it takes. You don't get to be a part-time father. I don't want to be. You don't get to make announcements and disappear. I'm not disappearing. Gianna's jaw tightened. You were always good at taking control, Sebastian. But this isn't a boardroom. He stepped closer, voice low. I'm not trying to take control. I'm trying to take responsibility. Her eyes narrowed. After 8 years, I didn't know. And if you had, he didn't blink. I would have moved heaven. Her heart twisted. Then why didn't you fight for me back then? Sebastian swallowed hard. Because I thought I was protecting you from my world, from my family, from the pressure. She shook her head. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting your position. He looked wounded. Maybe, he said softly. But I'm done with that now. All of it. If you let me, I'll show you who I've become. A pause. Then Gianna asked, And what if he rejects you? What if he grows up and resents you? Then I'll take it. Every ounce. Because he deserves to know who he is. And I won't hide from what I missed. Gianna searched his face, and for the first time she didn't see the man who walked away. She saw the man who came back. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty. Muted lighting, distant beeps, the clatter of dishes from behind the service counter. Gianna sat at a corner table nursing a paper cup of untouched coffee, her hands curled around the heat like it could anchor her. Sebastian approached slowly, 2 cups in hand. He set one down in front of her and slid into the chair opposite. "I thought you took it black," he said softly. Gianna glanced at the cup but said nothing. The silence stretched. Finally, Sebastian broke it. "You lied to me." Her spine stiffened. "I protected my son. You kept him from me. I kept him safe." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "From what?" "From boardrooms and photo ops. From fathers who marry for mergers. From being collateral in a world where nothing is real. I'm real." She looked up sharply. "You were engaged to someone else while I was carrying your child." Sebastian's jaw tightened. "I was forced into that engagement. You know that." "I know what the press said. I never wanted Clarissa." Gianna's eyes flared. "But you still kissed her in front of 100 cameras. Smiled like she was the center of your world. Meanwhile, I was throwing up every morning and learning how to breathe through betrayal." His face crumpled. "I didn't know. That's the point, Sebastian. You didn't know, because you didn't ask." He swallowed hard. "You disappeared, and you let me—" Their words hung like broken glass between them. Sharp, cutting, reflective. Sebastian exhaled deeply, running a hand over his face. "I'm not here to defend what I did, or didn't do. I'm here now. Is that supposed to be enough?" "No," he said quietly. "It's supposed to be a start." Gianna looked at him then, really looked. The tailored suit, now slightly rumpled. The exhaustion around his eyes. The fire that hadn't dimmed, but had clearly weathered. This wasn't the same man who once whispered promises in penthouse bedrooms. This man had edges dulled by time and regrets. "You were the last man I ever trusted," she said softly. "And I was the first man who ever failed you," he replied. Neither of them moved. Neither of them blinked. Then Sebastian leaned back in his chair. "What's he like?" he asked. Gianna hesitated. "Kind, in ways that scare me. He gives away his snacks to kids who forgot theirs. He cries when animals get hurt in movies. He's curious, brilliant, stubborn. And he hums when he draws, like he's inside the world he's creating." Sebastian smiled faintly. "Sounds like someone I used to know. He's better." He nodded. "I want to know him." Gianna's voice dropped to a whisper. "And what happens when your world starts pulling you away again? When board meetings and headlines get in the way?" "I walk out." She narrowed her eyes. "You say that now. I'll say it every day, if I have to." Gianna studied him. "Why?" "Because when I saw him in that bed, I felt something break. And I realized I don't want to build another empire if I can't build something with him." Her throat tightened. "You don't get to make this neat," she whispered. "This is messy. This is years of pain, missed birthdays, first steps, ER visits, school plays. Questions I couldn't answer. I want to make up for it." "You can't." "I can try." Gianna's hands trembled around the coffee cup. Sebastian reached across the table and covered them with his. Warm, steady, familiar. "I'm not asking you to forgive me overnight," he said. "I'm just asking you not to shut the door completely." She blinked, moisture gathering in her lashes. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean every word," he said. "Gianna, I loved you. I still do. And I don't want to waste another day pretending I don't." She pulled her hands back, breath catching. Don't make this about us. It is about us. It always was." She stood abruptly, chair scraping back. "I need air." He didn't stop her, just watched as she turned and walked out into the night. Outside, Gianna leaned against the hospital's cold stone wall. The city lights flickered in the distance. She closed her eyes and exhaled. Inside her chest, a battle raged, resentment and longing waging war across 8 years of silence. She loved him once. But was that love still hers? Or just memory? Back upstairs, Sebastian slipped quietly back into Isaac's room. The boy was still sleeping. But beside the sketchpad on his lap was a new drawing. A man, with his jawline, his nose, standing next to a woman with wild curls and tired eyes. And in between them, a boy with a smile too wide for paper. Beneath the picture, in crooked handwriting, "My dream family." Sebastian sat down beside the bed and whispered, "We're going to make it real." 8 years earlier, the 70th floor of Vale Industries pulsed with power, glass walls, white marble, and assistants that moved like shadows. Everyone in the room was polished, precise, prepared, except Gianna. She wasn't born into this world. She'd clawed her way into it. Armed with a laptop, a vision, and the kind of boldness that made executives lean back in their chairs, she stood in the center of the boardroom like she owned it, even though she was just a pitch consultant from the West Side. "The current brand screams tradition," she said, gesturing to the Vale Pharmaceuticals logo on the screen. "But your consumers aren't buying tradition. They're buying trust. And trust requires truth." A few board members shifted, skeptical. Only one man didn't move: Sebastian Vale, youngest billionaire on the East Coast, heir to a pharmaceutical dynasty, known for his intellect, feared for his silence. And in that moment he wasn't just listening, he was watching. Something about the way Gianna's voice didn't tremble when she challenged legacy intrigued him. "You want us to rebrand?" One executive scoffed. "With transparency? In this industry?" Gianna didn't blink. "You've built a $40 billion empire selling care. It's time the branding reflects it." The room stilled. Then Sebastian spoke, voice low and unreadable. "What's the emotional hook?" She turned toward him. "For decades, Vale Industries has sold medication. I wanted to start selling hope. That's what people buy when they walk into a pharmacy, hope. And right now, they're not seeing it in your messaging." The silence was thicker now, until Sebastian leaned back, fingers tapping once against the glass table. "Everyone else, give us a moment." The room emptied fast. When the door clicked shut, Gianna turned to face him fully. He studied her for a beat. "Where did you learn to do that?" "Do what?" "Slice through ego like a scalpel." She smirked. "From sitting in rooms like this and realizing I was always underestimated." He stood and walked to the window. The Manhattan skyline stretched behind him, endless, sharp, powerful. "You said something in your presentation," he murmured. "The world is tired of curated lies." Gianna nodded slowly. "I meant it. Why do you care so much about authenticity?" Her eyes didn't waver. "Because I spent too long trying to be someone else just to survive. And I hated her." He turned then, their eyes locking, and something shifted. The tension wasn't just intellectual, it crackled. He took a step closer. "You're not like anyone I've worked with," he said. "And you're not what I expected either." He moved again. Closer, almost within reach. "I don't usually let consultants talk back in my boardroom. Good thing I'm not trying to impress you." He smiled faintly. "Dangerous, curious, hungry, careful, Gianna." "Why?" "Because you're starting fires you may not be ready to put out." Her breath caught. He didn't touch her. Didn't have to. The heat between them was undeniable. And yet, she didn't back away. Instead, she tilted her chin up, defiant. "Maybe I don't want to put them out." His eyes darkened. And just like that, something irreversible happened. Later that night, she was still reviewing numbers when the elevator dinged. The glass doors slid open and in walked Sebastian. No jacket, tie loosened, sleeves rolled. "You're still here?" he asked. Gianna glanced up. "Apparently, you know your pitch was approved." "I figured. I'm just cleaning up the report for rollout." He walked toward her, slow, deliberate. "I've seen a lot of people talk their way into contracts," he said. "But no one's ever made me curious." Gianna shut her laptop. "Curious about?" He stopped a foot away. "You." She laughed once, dry and sharp. "Don't flirt with me, Sebastian." "Why not?" "Because I don't sleep with billionaires." "Good," he said. "Because I don't sleep with liars." She raised a brow. "Is that what you think I am?" "I think you're dangerous. And I think you like that." Their standoff lasted seconds, seconds that stretched like wire pulled too tight. Then, finally, Sebastian reached forward and touched her wrist. Light, but electric. "I should go," he said. "You should," she replied. He didn't move. Neither did she. Then, like gravity had made the decision for them, their mouths collided. No hesitation, no restraint. It was a kiss that defied logic and legacy, a kiss that tasted like ambition and risk. His hand slid to her waist, hers tangled in his hair. When he finally pulled away, breathless, he whispered, "Tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she whispered back, "Close the blinds." And that night, on the 70th floor of Vale Industries, surrounded by glass and secrets, Gianna Hartley let herself fall, not just into lust, but into something deeper, something dangerous. Gianna had told herself it was just physical, just one night, one mistake. But the lie didn't hold, because Sebastian kept coming back, sometimes in the late hours when the city quieted, sometimes before sunrise when the only light was the soft glow from her laptop. He'd show up with black coffee, or nothing but a look that said, "You're mine, whether you admit it or not." And slowly, the secret meetings turned into something else, something terrifying, something real. "Stay tonight," he said one morning, his hand tracing lazy circles along her bare spine as dawn filtered through his penthouse windows. Gianna turned toward him, sheets tangled at her waist. "I have a team meeting in 3 hours." He leaned in and kissed her shoulder. "Let them wait." She smiled, eyes half closed. "They already think I get special treatment." "You do," he murmured against her skin. "But not for the reasons they think." Her fingers curled against his chest. "Why do you keep doing this? What? Choosing me, when you could have anyone?" He looked at her like the answer was obvious. "Because you see me, not the numbers, not the company, not the last name, just me." Gianna swallowed the emotion rising in her throat. She wanted to believe him, desperately, but the world he came from didn't make room for women like her. 3 weeks later, the press release hit every media outlet before noon. Sebastian Vale engaged to Clarissa Dunn. Gianna stood frozen in her office, phone buzzing non-stop with alerts. A high-gloss photo accompanied every headline. Sebastian in a tailored suit, Clarissa on his arm, smiling like she'd already won. Her ears rang. Her heart pounded. She slammed the laptop shut and walked straight to the elevator. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. Sebastian found her 2 days later, on the steps of her apartment building, hair tied back, eyes guarded. "Gianna," he said, breathless. "Let me explain. You don't have to. I didn't know the announcement was going live. My father arranged it." She stared at him. "You still showed up in the photo. It's complicated." "No," she cut in. "It's simple. You chose legacy over love, money over honesty, them over me. I didn't choose any of this, but you didn't fight it either." His hands trembled at his sides. "I wanted to protect you." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't twist that word. I mean it." "Then where was your voice in that boardroom? Where was your voice when your father laid out the contract? When Clarissa slid that ring on her finger? When your family erased me from your life like I was nothing?" He stepped closer. "I was trying to buy time." She backed away. "I was never for sale." That struck him. Hard. He nodded slowly. "I deserve that." Gianna's throat burned. "I loved you," she said, "with everything I had. And you let me walk away. I didn't know how to keep you. Then you didn't deserve me." She turned and walked inside, and for the first time in his life, Sebastian Vale had nothing to say. Weeks passed, and Gianna never returned to Vale Industries. No phone call, no email, no trace. She disappeared, taking with her the fire, the honesty, and the child growing quietly inside her womb. She spent the early months in a small sublet near the marina. Her days were quiet, her nights sleepless. She rubbed her belly at 3 a.m, whispering promises to a child she wasn't sure she was ready for, but would never abandon. She worked freelance, building her own small firm from scratch, declining every interview, every call that had the word Vale in it. By the time she gave birth to Isak, there was no trace of Sebastian in her world, except in the boy's eyes. Back in the present day, Sebastian stood outside the ICU, fingers pressed to the glass, watching his son sleep. Gianna approached behind him. "You okay?" He didn't turn. "No." A beat of silence. Then, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want him to become someone else's decision." "He was never a decision." She raised a brow. "Wasn't he?" He turned, eyes shadowed with pain. I would have chosen you, Gianna. You didn't fight for me. I didn't know how. Then you didn't love me enough. He took a slow breath. You may be right. Silence. Then softly he said, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. Gianna blinked back emotion, because for the first time since the day she walked away, she believed him. The private recovery suite was quiet. A warm glow from the dimmed wall light softened the sterile walls. Machines hummed in low rhythm, and outside the window, Los Angeles faded into night. Isak lay curled beneath a fleece blanket with stars on it, his favorite one. His breathing was steady. His fingers still stained with graphite from a sketch he'd done earlier, a mountain, a family, and a little boy holding two hands. Sebastian sat beside the bed. Still, quiet, watching, not with fear, but with awe. This wasn't a business deal, not a merger or acquisition. This was something he couldn't buy or bluff his way through. This was his son, a living, breathing piece of him, yet nothing like him at all. I missed this, he said softly. Gianna, sitting across the room with her arms folded, looked up. You didn't know, she replied flatly. He shook his head. I missed this, he repeated, eyes never leaving the boy. Even without knowing, I still missed it. Somewhere inside me, Gianna's jaw clenched. He learned to ride his bike 2 years ago, scraped his chin, got up and tried again. No tears, just determination. Sebastian smiled faintly. Stubborn. Wonder where he got it from, she muttered. He leaned back in the chair. I wasn't ready then. No, she agreed. You weren't. They sat in silence, each watching the child sleep like he held every answer they never had the courage to ask. Then Sebastian spoke again, quieter this time. I used to imagine what our life could have been, late at night, after Clarissa left, after my father passed. In those hours, when even money didn't matter. Gianna's eyes flicked up. I used to picture you barefoot in my kitchen, yelling at me for leaving cabinet doors open, he added, and a kid who looked just like you drawing on the walls. She stared at him. And then, he continued, I'd remember the last thing you said to me, that I didn't deserve you. Gianna looked away. I didn't, he added. She swallowed. I didn't want him to grow up resenting you, or watching me beg you to stay, so I chose peace, even if it meant I'd raise him alone. He nodded slowly. I don't blame you. I wouldn't care if you did, she said, because I lived every day with the guilt of not giving him the whole truth, and I still would have made the same choice. Sebastian's voice dropped. I would have come for you. If I'd known. Her gaze hardened. And do what? Hide us in a beach house while your life carried on? No. I would have built a new life with you. She stood, pacing now. That's easy to say when the blood test is done and the cameras aren't watching. He rose from the chair, slow, measured. I'm not here because of guilt. She turned to him. Then why? Because I'm still in love with you, Gianna. The air in the room shifted. She blinked, but didn't move. You can't just say that like it fixes everything. I know. You can't walk back in and expect my heart to pick up where you left it. I don't expect anything. But I need you to know, I never stopped wanting you. She shook her head, stepping back. You don't get to want me now that the risk is gone. I wanted you then. I just didn't know how to choose you. And that makes it better? No. It just makes me human. Gianna clenched her jaw, fists trembling. I waited for you. Do you know that? For months after I left, every phone call, every knock on the door. I thought it might be you. He stepped closer. I'm sorry. No, Sebastian. Sorry doesn't carry 8 years. He stopped just in front of her. I know. She looked up into his eyes. And damn it, part of her still remembered. The way he once looked at her across the office desk. The way he touched her skin like it held all the answers. The way he whispered her name in the dark like it was a secret prayer. But that wasn't enough anymore, was it? Still, her body didn't step away. Behind them, Isak stirred. They both turned instantly. The boy blinked, half awake, eyes glassy with sleep. Sebastian moved first, gently brushing the hair from his forehead. I'm right here, he whispered. Gianna approached slowly, standing on the opposite side of the bed. For a moment they simply stood like that, united in silence, the boy between them, the pain behind them, the unknown ahead. And in that moment there was something fragile, but possible, The rain had started softly against the windows of the recovery suite, a gentle patter, almost melodic, the kind that made confessions feel easier, or harder. Gianna stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, her eyes focused on nothing. The city below blurred into streaks of amber light and rainfall. Behind her, Sebastian sat at the edge of Isaac's bed. His hand rested gently near the boy's. He watched him breathe, slow, steady, healing. It should have been a peaceful moment, but peace had a way of staying just out of reach when the past was still unfinished business. "I can't sleep," Gianna said quietly, without turning. Sebastian's voice answered just as softly. "Neither can I." She turned slowly. "You're here now," she said, "and that's good for him, but it doesn't mean things between us just resume." "I'm not asking for resumes," he said, standing up. "I'm asking for truth." Gianna laughed once, bitterly. "Now you want the truth?" "Yes." She crossed her arms. "Fine. I still think about you. Sometimes I hate myself for it. Sometimes I wonder if I created a fantasy out of a man who never actually existed. You were intense, brilliant, unforgettable, and absolutely unavailable." He took a step closer. "I was yours." "No, Sebastian, you were with me. But you weren't mine. Not really. You had your world, your rules, your father, your headlines, and when it came time to fight, you didn't. I didn't know how. Then you should have learned a beat." Then she whispered, "You broke my heart in a way that still echoes every time I walk, past a pharmacy, or see a skyline from a window, or smell your damn cologne." Sebastian didn't defend himself. He stepped even closer. "I still want you," he said quietly. Gianna shook her head, tears pooling. "Wanting me was never the problem. Keeping me was. I want to keep you now." Her voice cracked. "Don't say things you can't commit to. I'm saying what I should have said before. That I loved you before I understood what love meant, that I buried you under ambition, and that I never stopped remembering the way your laugh felt in my chest." Gianna's voice dropped to a whisper. "Then why didn't you come for me?" "Because I was a coward." She blinked. He continued, "Because I thought letting you go would protect you. Because I let my father's ghost make my choices. And because I believed you deserved more than what I was." Tears slipped down her cheek. Sebastian moved in, close enough to feel her breath. "I'm not that man anymore." Gianna stared up at him. "What if I've changed too?" she asked. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Then let me fall in love with the woman you've become." Her eyes closed, just for a second. Then, "You still want me?" she asked, voice cracking. He leaned in. "I never stopped." And then, she kissed him. Not like the first time, not like the office or the penthouse. This was slower, sadder, wilder. It was a kiss that carried 8 years of pain, apology, and unfinished fire. He gripped her waist. She held his face. Their bodies remembered, and the rain outside kept falling. Moments later, they pulled apart, breathing heavy. Gianna turned away, brushing tears from her face. "I don't know if I can do this again," she whispered. "You don't have to decide tonight." He stepped behind her, wrapped his arms gently around her waist, his chin resting on her shoulder. "I just needed to know the door wasn't locked," he murmured. She exhaled slowly. "I never locked it," she said. "I just didn't think you'd ever knock again." Back at the bed, Isaac stirred again. His eyes blinked open. He looked around the room, saw both of them. His smile was small, sleepy. "Are you two done fighting now?" he asked groggily. Gianna chuckled, wiping her eyes. "For now." Sebastian grinned, moving to his side. "You've got good timing, kid." Isaac smiled wider. "I always do." Gianna sat down beside him and kissed his forehead. Sebastian took the boy's hand gently. "Rest, okay? We're both here now." Isaac nodded, already drifting back into sleep. And this time, the silence in the room didn't feel heavy. It felt like the beginning of something new. The morning light peeked through the blinds in long golden lines, washing the recovery suite in warmth. It was the first time in days that the room didn't feel heavy. The monitors were quieter. Isaac's cheeks had a little more color. And Sebastian, he was still there. Gianna woke to find him asleep in the chair next to Isaac's bed, head tilted against the wall, one hand still resting near their son's. She watched him for a moment. This wasn't the Sebastian Vale the world knew. Not the man in conference rooms, in billion-dollar press releases, in glossy photographs with carefully selected partners. This was just a man, a tired man, a father, and something in her chest shifted. Later that morning, after Isak drifted off again, Gianna and Sebastian stepped out into the hospital's rooftop garden. The air was fresh, and the city buzzed far below, unaware of the decisions being weighed in this quiet corner of the sky. They stood side by side, looking out over the skyline. "I never imagined this," he said. She raised a brow. "The garden? This life? You? Him? All of it?" Gianna nodded slowly. "Neither did I." He turned to face her fully. "You asked me why I didn't fight for you, why I didn't come after you." She said nothing. "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid that what we had was too fragile to survive the life I was trapped in, and I was too proud to risk rejection. So I pretended it didn't matter, that you didn't matter." She met his eyes. "You were wrong." "I know." He stepped closer. "I thought if I followed the legacy, I'd feel secure, like I had value. But I built an empire and still went home every night feeling like something was missing." Gianna folded her arms, lips pressed tight. "What do you want from me now, Sebastian?" He didn't flinch. "I want your forgiveness, not because I deserve it, but because I can't rewrite the past. Only what comes next." She looked away. "I want to be his father," he continued. "Fully, publicly, permanently. No more secrets, no press releases, no hiding. And if he grows up and asks why you weren't there sooner, I'll tell him the truth," Sebastian said. "That I made mistakes, that I didn't show up when I should have, but that I spent the rest of my life making it right." Gianna's voice softened. "And me?" He stepped even closer, his voice barely a whisper. "You were never replaceable." She blinked. He reached out, took her hand. "I didn't just lose a child I didn't know I had," he said. "I lost the woman who made me feel like I was worth more than my last name." Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. "You've said these things before," she whispered. "Back then, in pieces, between kisses. But I need more than promises whispered between broken moments." Sebastian nodded. "Then let me say it like I mean it." He stepped back, pulled something from his coat pocket, a simple silver ring. No diamonds, no show, just intention. "I'm not proposing," he said quickly. "Not yet, but I'm asking for a chance to rebuild, from the ground up, the way we should have done before." Gianna stared at the ring, then at him. She didn't reach for it, but she didn't walk away either. "I don't need rings, Sebastian," she said. "I need proof." He nodded. "Then let me prove it, every day." She held his gaze for a long moment, and finally, softly, "Don't say it unless you mean it." "I do," he said. "I mean it with every part of me." She took a slow breath, her voice nearly breaking. "Then don't disappoint him." "I won't." Gianna turned to the city again. The garden was quiet, but something inside her wasn't, not anymore. Back downstairs, Isak was awake and sketching. He looked up when they entered. "Did you two talk?" he asked. Gianna smiled. "We did. Are you friends again?" Sebastian chuckled. "We're working on it." Isak shrugged. "You should be. You both look better when you're not mad." Gianna ruffled his hair. "You're too smart for your own good." The boy grinned. "I get it from both of you." Sebastian leaned over the bed and showed him the ring. "Can I leave this with you?" he asked. Isak blinked. "What is it?" "A promise," Sebastian said, "that no matter what happens, I'll always be around." Isak reached out and took the ring in his tiny palm. "Okay," he said, and in that moment, the promise wasn't just between adults. It was between a father and a son, and it mattered more than any boardroom vow ever could. It started with a look. They were in the hallway just outside Isak's room. Visiting hours had ended. The nurse gave a soft smile before shutting the door behind her, leaving them in a cocoon of silence. Sebastian leaned against the wall, arms folded, his tie loosened, eyes fixed on Gianna. Gianna stood across from him, quiet, guarded. But something had changed. The arguments were gone. The accusations were spent. What remained between them now wasn't noise. It was pull. He stepped forward, slow, controlled, and then, in a voice just above a whisper, "Do you remember the first time I kissed you?" Gianna's lips twitched. Office, late, after the pitch. He nodded. You had on that blue wrap dress, hair pinned up. You didn't look like anyone in the building. You looked like freedom. Her eyes met his. You kissed me like you were starving, she whispered. I was, he replied. I didn't know how much until then. Another step forward. You pushed me against your desk, she murmured. You told me not to stop. And you didn't. Their breathing deepened. He closed the space between them until her back met the opposite wall. His hand brushed her waist, barely there. Testing, waiting. Gianna didn't move away. Her voice was low. Why now, Sebastian? Because I can't go another day pretending I don't still feel it. She searched his face. I need to forget what it felt like to miss you, she said. He leaned in, mouth just at her ear. Then let me help you remember everything else. The elevator ride to the executive recovery suite on the upper floor was silent, tense, wanting. The moment the doors closed, Sebastian's mouth found hers, deep, hungry, unapologetic. Gianna gasped into the kiss, her hands gripping his shoulders as he backed her into the wall of the elevator. His body pressed into hers, lips trailing from her jaw down her neck. Still tastes like honey and fire, he whispered. Her nails scraped across his chest as she tore at his buttons. You still feel like trouble, she panted. I hope so. The suite was dim, luxury wrapped in hospital cleanliness. He didn't wait. She didn't ask him to. Sebastian lifted her with both hands, carrying her to the couch. Her legs wrapped around his waist as he dropped them down. She tugged off his shirt completely, baring the body she remembered in snapshots and dreams. Take it off, he said, voice rough. She peeled her blouse away slowly, letting him look. Not for attention, but for control. His fingers slid down her back, unclasping her bra. He kissed her collarbone, her shoulder, the center of her chest. Gianna arched against him. I miss your mouth, she whispered. He smiled against her skin. Then use it. She flipped him effortlessly, pinning him beneath her. His breath caught. She moved down, slow and deliberate, worshiping him in return. This is mine, she said, kissing along his abdomen. All of it, he growled. He reached up, yanked her panties aside, and pulled her down onto him. No pretense. No pause. Just heat and rhythm, and years of silence burning away. Their bodies moved with precision, like memory returning home. She rode him hard, one hand pressed to his chest, her other laced with his above his head. His mouth parted in a groan. God, Gianna. She leaned down, biting his lower lip. Say my name again. He did, over and over, like an oath. When he flipped her onto her back and drove into her deeper, slower, her legs locked around him, she gasped. You're mine, he whispered. You've always been mine. Tears pricked her eyes as she clawed at his back. Don't you dare leave again. I'm never leaving. They came together, shaking, clinging, shattered, whole. Later, wrapped in one another, breath steadying, Gianna lay with her head on his chest. His fingers ran soft patterns along her arm. I forgot what it felt like to be wanted without condition, she whispered. You were never forgettable, he said. I tried to hate you. I tried to forget you. She looked up at him. We failed. He smiled. Then softly, let's stop failing. In the silence, she curled against him. And for the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Not in hiding, not surviving, but returning to something real, to something earned. Sebastian had built companies from scratch. He'd signed billion-dollar deals, stood before investors, and faced down entire boards. But nothing prepared him for tying a 7-year-old's shoelaces. I can do it, Isak muttered, lips curled in frustration, his little fingers fumbling with the laces. Sebastian crouched beside him. It's okay. Want me to show you one more time? Isak nodded, watching closely as Sebastian looped and knotted the strings slowly, explaining each move. There, he said. Now you try. The boy tried again, slower this time. Success, he beamed. Gianna watched from the doorway of the hospital lounge, arms folded, heart clenching. It was only a shoelace, but it meant the world. Over the next few days, Sebastian stayed in L.A. He didn't go back to New York, didn't check in with his assistant, didn't read a single corporate email. Instead, he learned how to cut grilled cheese sandwiches into triangles because Isak hated squares. He learned that Isak always drew after lunch. that he liked silence while sketching, that he talked to himself when he was stuck on an idea. One afternoon, while Gianna was on a work call in the hallway, Isak turned to Sebastian and said, "Mom says I'm a genius." Sebastian smiled. "She's right. Are you smart too?" "I think so." "Do you like drawing?" "I used to." "Why'd you stop?" Sebastian paused. "Because I got scared I wasn't good enough. So I started doing things I knew I could win at." Isak blinked. "That's silly." Sebastian chuckled. "Yeah, it was." The boy grinned and went back to his sketchbook, pressing the pencil harder into the page. That night, Sebastian found Gianna sitting in the hospital courtyard, sipping from a paper cup, her shoulders slouched. "You look exhausted," he said. "I am. Want to take a walk?" She hesitated, then nodded. They strolled slowly along the garden path, moonlight casting soft reflections on the pavement. "He told me you helped with his drawing today," Gianna said. Sebastian nodded. "He told me I was silly for quitting." She smiled. "He's observant. He's brilliant." They walked in silence for a moment. Then Sebastian asked, "What was it like, raising him alone?" Gianna didn't answer right away. "It was loud in the beginning, with diapers and crying and sleepless nights. Then it got quiet, lonely even. There were moments I'd stare at him and wonder if I was doing it all wrong. But he'd smile. And suddenly, I knew I was doing enough." Sebastian's face softened. "You did more than enough." She turned to him. "But you missed it." He nodded. "I'll never forgive myself for that." Gianna looked away. "You don't get to make it up in a week, Sebastian." "I know. But I'll never stop trying." She exhaled slowly. "You're learning," she said. He looked at her. "What makes you say that?" "You didn't promise to be perfect. You promised to try. That's new." He stopped walking. "I spent years perfecting things that never mattered. I don't want to perfect anything anymore. I just want to show up." Her throat tightened. "That's a start." The next morning, Gianna was greeted by a surprise. Isak's room was filled with sunlight and laughter. Sebastian sat beside the bed, both arms lifted high like wings as he imitated a bird. Isak was cackling. "No, do the elephant again." Sebastian snorted and switched into a low rumble, stomping around the bed in exaggerated steps. Gianna leaned against the doorframe and smiled. This wasn't just a CEO trying to be a dad. This was a man who was changing, one silly voice at a time. Later, after breakfast, Gianna handed Isak a new set of colored pencils. He gasped. "The fancy kind?" She nodded. "You earned them." He turned to Sebastian. "Will you draw with me?" Sebastian looked uncertain, then nodded. "I'll try." Together, father and son bent over the sketchpad. Gianna watched as two heads leaned close, laughter mixing with concentration. There were no cameras, no staff, no media, just family. And for the first time since the world had turned upside down, Gianna felt something settle in her chest. Not trust, not yet, but hope. And that was enough. Have you ever watched someone learn how to love in real time? Seen a person slowly become what they were meant to be, not through perfection but persistence? Tell me in the comments. And if this moment touched your heart, tap that like button. Let's keep growing this family. Later that evening, the sky over Los Angeles turned soft lavender. The last streaks of sunlight filtered through the hospital window, casting a glow across Isak's drawings, scattered like memories across the table. Sebastian sat alone, flipping through each page, his fingertips brushing the pencil strokes carefully. There was one of the three of them on a hill, one of a treehouse with clouds for windows, and another, unfinished, of just Gianna, smiling. She entered quietly and paused when she saw him holding the sketch. "That's his favorite," she said. Sebastian looked up. "He drew you like a lighthouse." I asked him once why. He said, "Because I help people find their way home." Sebastian exhaled through his nose. "He's right." Gianna walked further into the room. "He's been asking questions. About me?" She nodded. "About where you came from, what your world looks like. He asked if you were rich." Sebastian gave a tight smile. "And what did you say?" "I told him you have more money than most countries, but you're still learning how to use it." He laughed, surprised. "That's fair." Gianna's tone changed. "But I also told him money doesn't make someone trustworthy." Sebastian's smile faded. "And do you trust me?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Not yet." He nodded slowly. Then let me prove I can be. He stood and reached into his coat, pulling out a thin leather envelope. What's that? Paperwork, he said. I had my legal team draw up a custody agreement. Gianna's brows lifted. It grants you full custody, he continued. No hidden clauses, no control, no manipulation. It also includes an educational fund and medical trust for Isaac, unconditional access. No publicity, no strings. She took the envelope, slowly flipping it open. Her fingers moved across the legal pages, eyes narrowing as she scanned the terms. Everything he said was true. No power grabs, no loopholes, just protection for both her and their son. Her voice cracked. Why would you do this? Because I've spent my whole life trying to own things, he said. And for the first time, I don't want ownership. I want trust. She closed the folder gently. This doesn't fix everything. I know, he said, but it's a start. Gianna stared at him. No man had ever handed her power like this. No one had ever said, I trust you more than I trust myself. It shook something deep inside her. You don't just want to be in his life, she said. Sebastian stepped closer. I want to deserve it. A silence stretched between them, thick with all that was shifting. Finally, she looked up. You've come a long way, Vale. I'm trying. I see that. They stood in stillness for a beat longer. Then Isaac called from the other room. Mom? Sebastian? They both turned, instinctively moving together. Inside, Isaac sat up in bed, holding a drawing in his lap. Can we finish the story? He asked. The one where we all live in the treehouse? Gianna glanced at Sebastian. He smiled. Only if I get to climb up this time. Isaac grinned. You can be the one who pulls the rope ladder. Sebastian sat beside him, already reaching for a pencil. Deal. Gianna joined them on the other side, watching as their son guided the sketch like a director of dreams. It was simple. It was quiet. But in the stillness, trust was being built, line by line, laugh by laugh. That night, as Gianna tucked Isaac in and Sebastian turned to leave, she stopped him at the door. One thing, she said. He turned. Don't break him, she said softly. He's not like us. He's still unbruised. Sebastian nodded. I won't. You can disappoint me, she added. You already have, but if you break his heart, I won't need a lawyer. I'll come for you myself. His throat tightened, and then she said, even softer, but thank you for showing me you're willing to earn it. He didn't reply. He just looked at her, like the woman he once lost and now maybe, just maybe, still had a chance to love again. The internet caught fire before breakfast. It started with one photo, blurry but undeniable. Sebastian Vale, exiting Cedars-Sinai's private wing with a woman and a child beside him. The headline came fast. Billionaire Sebastian Vale's secret family. Then came the cascade. News blogs, celebrity gossip sites, even international outlets recycling the same image with different spins. Expose. The child Sebastian never claimed. Who is Gianna Hartley, and why was she hiding? Clarissa Dunn responds with one word, unbothered. Gianna saw it first on her phone as she poured cereal for Isaac. Her fingers gripped the counter. The comments were brutal. Gold digger, opportunist, private nurse turned secret baby mama, and worst of all, Isaac's face was visible in one of the shots. She stormed into the hallway and called out, Sebastian! He was in the guest lounge, on the phone with his publicist. He turned, immediately catching the look in her eyes. We need to talk, she said. He ended the call without a word, and followed her to a quieter corner of the floor. Did you leak this? She asked, fury barely contained. No, of course not. But someone at the hospital did. We're running damage control now. Our son's face is online, Sebastian. He's 7. I know. I already filed a removal request. Gianna's voice dropped to a sharper edge. I told you this would happen if the world found out. He nodded, jaw clenched. And I told you I wouldn't hide anymore. There's a difference between hiding and protecting. His voice stayed level. I'm protecting both of you. She held up the screen. This is not protection. This is invasion. He stepped closer, hands raised. You're right, I'm handling it. But I won't pretend my son doesn't exist, and I won't let them paint you as some scandal. Her arms folded tightly across her chest. This isn't just about reputation. This is about a boy who doesn't understand why strangers are commenting on his smile. Sebastian's expression shifted, guilt and anger mingling. I swear to you, Gianna, I'll clean this up. I'll make it right. You better. That afternoon, Gianna stayed inside with Isak, canceling all her meetings and turning off every notification. Sebastian, meanwhile, walked into the PR war room he'd built downtown. Screens displayed headlines. Analysts read trending hashtags. His entire legal and communications team stood by. He scanned the room, then pointed. Call every outlet that posted a photo of my son. Threaten legal action if they don't take it down. Issue a cease and desist to the paparazzi who shot him. And get Clarissa's name out of this. If she speaks again, I'll drag her father's corruption file through court. His chief strategist looked up. And your statement? Sebastian paused, then answered, steady and calm. Tell the world the truth. The press conference was streamed live. No podium, no glamour. Just Sebastian Vale, standing in front of a white backdrop, sleeves rolled, tie off. He spoke directly into the camera. No one deserves to have their family weaponized for public entertainment. Gianna Hartley is not a scandal. She's the mother of my child, a brilliant strategist, a fiercely independent woman, and for 8 years she carried the weight of a decision I should have shared. That ends today. He took a breath. Our son, Isak, is the best part of me. He is not a secret. He is not a story. He is a boy who deserves peace, privacy, and protection. Anyone who attempts to violate that, whether for clicks or clout, will answer to me personally. He paused again. And as for Clarissa Dunn, our engagement ended years ago. My silence was not an admission. It was restraint. That too ends today. A final glance at the lens. I won't be ashamed of my family. I won't let them be defined by anyone but themselves. The screen faded to black. Gianna watched it all from the hospital, her heart thudding. When the video ended, Isak looked up from his sketchpad. Is he in trouble? He asked. She shook her head slowly. No, baby. He just told the truth. Isak nodded. Good. Then went back to drawing. That night, social media changed its tone. Sebastian Vale's son trended for hours, but not out of scandal. Out of admiration, comments flooded in. Protect this little boy at all costs. Gianna is a real one, raising a king in silence. Sebastian stepping up? I respect that. Even Clarissa posted a quiet message on her account. Everyone has the right to grow, even the people we once loved. Sebastian returned late. Gianna was seated on the hospital couch, a blanket around her shoulders, tea untouched on the table. He entered quietly. I watched, she said. He sat beside her. Was it enough? She looked at him for a long beat, then nodded. You spoke like a man with nothing to hide. I meant every word. She turned to him, eyes searching. You really love him. I love both of you. She took a breath, and this time she didn't resist when he took her hand. The next day felt different, not because the headlines had stopped spinning or the public had lost interest, but because Gianna stopped flinching every time her phone buzzed. She sat at the edge of Isak's bed, watching him sleep, peaceful, unbothered, unaware that his life had been debated in hashtags, dissected by strangers, and defended on a livestream that reached millions. Sebastian stepped into the room carrying a brown paper bag and 2 large coffees. I got the one with oat milk, he said, offering it. Gianna accepted it, surprised. I remembered, he added. She smirked. Well done. He sat beside her. The hospital room was quiet again. And then Gianna asked, almost too softly to hear, why did you say all that publicly? He turned to her. Because I was tired of pretending that my love for you and Isak had to live in silence. And because if the world was going to look at you, I wanted them to see the truth, not scandal. Gianna stared at him. And the truth is that I've spent the last few years building towers when I should have been building us. She swallowed. You never said you loved me before. I didn't know how. And now? He reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. With a few taps, he brought up a post, his most recent. It was a photo of Gianna and Isak walking side by side under a tree at the hospital garden. Taken from behind. Peaceful, honest. The caption read, no filters, no edits, just my future. Gianna blinked slowly. I posted it this morning, he said. And I don't care what anyone thinks. Let the world watch me love you. Her throat tightened. You know there's no going back after this. I'm not going back. I'm going forward, with you. A tear slid down her cheek. And if I fall again? I'll catch you this time. Gianna reached for his hand. Warm, solid, present. She didn't speak, but she didn't pull away either. That afternoon, a package arrived at the hospital. A small painting, unsigned, but Gianna knew the style. Bold strokes, gentle shading. It was Clarissa's work. On the back, a note. Some things aren't ours to keep, but they are ours to let go of. See, Gianna stared at it for a long time, then smiled. Maybe closure didn't have to come through confrontation. Maybe it could arrive quietly. With grace. Later, as twilight settled over the city, Gianna sat on a bench in the rooftop garden, arms wrapped around herself. Sebastian joined her without a word. They watched the horizon for a while. Then Gianna said, "Do you remember what you told me once? The night before the boardroom fallout?" He turned. "Which part?" "That no matter what your family said, I was yours." "I meant that." She looked at him deeply. "Then say it again." Sebastian didn't hesitate. "You're mine, Gianna." She turned to face him, her voice barely audible. "Say it so the part of me that still doubts you can believe it." He reached out, cupped her cheek. "You are mine, and I am yours. I always was. I just didn't know how to keep you safe back then. But I've learned, and now I'll protect you with everything I have." She closed her eyes, letting the words sink in like balm over old wounds. Then finally, her lips met his. No audience, no reporters, just two souls who had been torn apart by time and fear, finding their way back. That night, Sebastian posted one last photo to his page. A sketch Isak had drawn of the three of them holding hands. The caption was simple, family. Not by name, by love. It went viral, not because it was polished, but because it was true. It had been exactly 9 days since Sebastian walked into Cedars Sinai. 9 days since everything changed. Now, Isak was finally cleared for discharge. The hospital room, once filled with machines and uncertainty, now echoed with soft goodbyes and cardboard boxes. Nurses dropped by to hug Gianna. Doctors offered quiet nods of congratulations. And in the center of it all, Isak, stronger, smiling, curious. Gianna held his hand as they stepped into the waiting car. Sebastian opened the other door. "You ready for your surprise?" Isak's eyes lit up. "Is it a comic book store?" Sebastian laughed. "Not quite." The car pulled into a private elevator garage in the heart of the city. The doors opened directly into a sleek, modern penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a panoramic view of Los Angeles. Isak stepped out first, wide-eyed. "Whoa." Sebastian followed with a smirk. "Welcome to my real world." Gianna entered last. The penthouse was exactly as she remembered it. Minimalist, masculine, cold steel, softened by soft leather. But there were changes. A new rug, brighter curtains, a shelf with framed photos, one already of Isak drawing taken just days ago. "You live here alone?" Isak asked, walking in a slow circle. Sebastian nodded. "For now." The boy paused. "It's really big." Gianna chuckled. Translation, "It's missing cereal stains and Legos." "I can fix that," Isak offered. Sebastian grinned. "Be my guest." Later that evening, Gianna helped settle Isak into the guest room, now equipped, with fresh sheets, superhero pillows, and even a small easel by the window. He fell asleep quickly, exhausted by the day. When she returned to the living room, Sebastian stood by the window, drink in hand, shirt unbuttoned halfway, the city lights washing over his skin. He didn't turn. "I used to look out over this view and feel like I had everything," he said. "Now all I see is what I almost lost." Gianna walked up behind him. She didn't say anything, just stood there, present, real. He turned slowly, facing her. "Stay," he whispered. "I already am." "No," he said, stepping close. "I mean tonight. Stay. With me." Gianna's breath hitched. Her voice was quiet. "We shouldn't rush. I'm not rushing." His hands found her hips. "I'm remembering," he added. She closed her eyes, and in that moment, the pull was undeniable. They moved to the bedroom like something rehearsed. Clothes fell away like confessions, one piece at a time. Sebastian kissed her with a depth that had nothing to prove, just everything to offer. His hands roamed her skin like he'd been granted permission to come home. Gianna pulled him onto the bed, wrapped her legs around his waist, her lips grazing his jaw. "You feel different," she murmured. "I am different," he replied. Then he entered her. Slow, deep, complete. She gasped against his mouth, and the years melted. They moved like fire in memory, sheets twisted, moans swallowed, skin slick with heat and hunger. He gripped her wrists, pinning them above her head. "Say it." She arched beneath him, breathless. "Say what?" "That you're mine." Her voice cracked. "I never stopped being." He kissed her deeply, grinding into her harder, deeper. "Then let them all watch." She bit his shoulder, gasping. "Let them see everything." Their rhythm broke, shattered. They came undone together, eyes locked, hearts open. Not from lust, from love rediscovered. Later, tangled in sheets, Gianna lay with her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "You've changed," she whispered again. He kissed her forehead. "So have you." They didn't need to say more, because for the first time in years, the silence between them wasn't about distance. It was about peace. The next morning came soft and slow. Sunlight bled through the sheer curtains, casting golden stripes across the bed. Gianna stirred beneath the sheets, her body still humming from the night before. Her skin smelled of him. Her muscles held the memory of his hands. She reached across the bed. Empty. She sat up quickly, heart skipping. Then she heard it, laughter, coming from the kitchen. She wrapped herself in a long button-down shirt, his, and padded barefoot down the hallway. The sight stopped her in the doorway. Sebastian stood in front of the stove, barefoot in dark slacks, flipping pancakes with exaggerated flair. Flour dusted his cheek. Isak sat on the counter beside him, holding a bowl of blueberries and giggling. "Careful. That one's gonna fall," Isak warned. Sebastian grinned. "I live on the edge." The pancake landed slightly off-center in the pan. "You missed." I adjusted. Isak laughed harder. Gianna leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, heart quietly unraveling. "You two planning to open a diner?" Sebastian turned, eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Morning." Isak waved a berry-stained hand. "We're practicing." He said, "I can be the manager. I'll have a small business loan drawn up," Sebastian added with a wink. Gianna smiled, slow, genuine, full. She walked in and kissed Isak's forehead. "You hungry, boss?" He held up a blueberry. "Berry." She turned to Sebastian. "You cook now." He handed her a plate. "I do a lot of things I didn't used to." She took it, fingers brushing his. The heat was still there, but it didn't burn. It warmed. After breakfast, Isak retreated to the balcony with his sketch pad, leaving the two adults in the kitchen. Gianna rinsed the plates while Sebastian dried. Comfortable, domestic, but beneath it, something stirred. "I'm scared," she said suddenly. Sebastian looked up. Of what? This, us, him, all of it. He leaned against the counter, towel in hand. "I know. I don't want to fall into something that feels good for a week and then disappears. I don't want to disappear." She looked at him, eyes wet but steady. "Then don't give me words. Give me presence. I'm here." "You say that now." Sebastian took a step closer. "I know I haven't earned your full trust. Not yet. But I'm not asking for a shortcut. I'm asking for a chance to stay long enough to build something with you. Real, daily, messy." Gianna's voice cracked. "I've been running for 8 years, Sebastian." "Then stop." He reached out, gently placing his hands on her waist. "You don't have to run anymore." She lowered her gaze. "And what happens when life gets hard? When the board calls you to clean up a scandal? When you have to choose between a headline and a family breakfast?" He tilted her chin up until their eyes met. "I'll choose this. Every time." She blinked. "You don't know what that means." "I do now." A long silence passed, and then she whispered, "Okay." He froze. "Okay. I'll stay." He stepped closer. "Here? Here. Tonight?" She smiled. "Every night, if you mean what you say." "I do." Sebastian kissed her softly. Not like before, not desperate or hungry, but certain. And for Gianna, that certainty was everything. That evening, after Isak went to bed, Gianna stepped out onto the balcony alone. The city stretched wide beneath her, alive and indifferent. Sebastian joined her quietly, placing a blanket around her shoulders. "Thinking?" he asked. She nodded. "Always." He rested his arms on the railing beside her. "I used to think love had to look perfect," he said. "Polished, grand, powerful. And now?" He looked at her. "Now I think love looks like pancakes at sunrise, crayons on the marble, your hair in my shirt." She leaned into him. "I think love looks like this, too." Inside, Isak dreamed peacefully. In his drawing that night, the three of them stood side by side, holding hands in front of a house on a hill. And for the first time, he drew it with a sun in the sky. Not storm clouds, not shadows, just light. The question didn't come with fanfare, no dramatic setup, no tears. Just a quiet afternoon, a deck of Uno cards, and a child who had been watching more than he let on. Isak placed a blue card on the pile, eyes focused. Then, without looking up, he said it. "Mom, is Sebastian my dad?" Gianna froze. Her hand hovered over the deck. Across the table, Sebastian stiffened slightly but didn't interrupt. Isak finally looked up, eyes steady. "I mean, he looks like me, and he never left the hospital, and he knows how I like my toast. So, is he?" Gianna's voice was soft. "Would you be upset if he was?" Isak shook his head. "No. I just want to know." Sebastian leaned forward slowly. "Can I answer that?" Gianna nodded once. Sebastian looked Isak in the eye. "Yes, I'm your dad." Isak blinked, then asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" Gianna reached across the table, gently taking her son's hand. "Because I didn't want you to get hurt," she said. "I wanted to be sure that if I ever told you, it would be forever, that he'd stay." Isak turned to Sebastian. "Are you staying?" "I am," Sebastian replied. "No matter what, I'm not going anywhere." Isak tilted his head. "Even if I lose at Uno and cry about it, even then, even if I get mad and slam my door, especially then." Isak smiled, slowly, then leaned forward and whispered, "Good, because I always draw you when I dream." Gianna's eyes welled instantly. Sebastian swallowed hard. "You, what?" "I had a dream once where I had a dad," Isak said. "He was sad, but he was strong, and he looked just like you. I painted it. Remember, Mom?" Gianna nodded. "I thought it was just a dream," she whispered. "It wasn't," Isak said proudly. "I think I knew before you did." Sebastian chuckled, brushing a tear from his cheek. "Well, you're way ahead of me." Isak stood, walked around the table, and hugged Sebastian tight. "I'm glad you're my dad." Sebastian held him close, heart full, voice thick. "So am I, buddy." That night, Gianna and Sebastian sat in the living room long after Isak went to bed. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, she said, "He handled that better than I thought." "He's stronger than we are," Sebastian replied. She glanced over. "He's all the best parts of us." They fell into a quiet rhythm again. Then Sebastian turned to her. "Thank you." "For what?" "For raising him into someone I'm proud to call my son." Gianna blinked, caught off guard. She smiled. "He's only just getting started." Sebastian's tone deepened. "So, are we—" She looked at him, really looked. There was no arrogance in his voice, just truth. And maybe for the first time in years, she believed they had something real to build. Together. Later, Gianna stepped into Isak's room. He was asleep, peaceful. Next to his pillow sat a sketch pad. She flipped to the newest drawing. It was of a man kneeling, not in defeat, but in promise. In front of him stood a child holding his hand, and behind them, a woman smiling with one hand over her heart. The caption scribbled in the corner read, "My family." For real this time. Gianna clutched the pad to her chest and whispered into the stillness, "Thank you." The next morning was quiet. Sebastian was already in the kitchen when Gianna walked in, barefoot, her curls loosely tied back, eyes still puffy from sleep. He handed her a cup of coffee. "No flour this time," he said with a smile. She smirked. A miracle. They sipped in silence, side by side, the kind of comfortable quiet that people earn, not inherit. Then came the shuffle of small feet on hardwood. Isak appeared in the doorway, dragging his sketchpad under one arm, hair sticking in every direction. "Mom?" he asked, eyes still cloudy with sleep. Gianna knelt. "Good morning, baby." He blinked, then looked at Sebastian. "Can I show him?" Gianna nodded. "Go ahead." Isak handed Sebastian the sketch pad and climbed up on the counter. Sebastian flipped to the first page. It was a drawing of the two of them in a garden, Isak on a swing, Sebastian pushing him. "I drew that after the hospital," Isak said. "When I didn't know if you were staying." Sebastian's fingers traced the pencil lines. "It's perfect." "Keep going," Isak urged. Sebastian turned the page. Another image, Gianna and Sebastian standing in front of a house holding hands. Between them, a smaller figure, Isak. Underneath it, the words "together now." "Not hiding." Sebastian cleared his throat. "You're really talented." Isak grinned. "I get it from Mom." "Not just from me," Gianna added, glancing at Sebastian. "You've got both of us in you." Isak nodded, proud. He said I look like him. "You do," Sebastian said, kneeling in front of his son. "But you're even better than me." The boy tilted his head. "Why?" "Because you're brave enough to ask the hard questions." Isak smiled again, then leaned forward to whisper something in Gianna's ear. She raised a brow. "Are you sure?" He nodded. Gianna turned to Sebastian. "He wants you to have the sketch pad." Sebastian froze. "Really?" Isak handed it over himself. "So you don't forget." Sebastian held it like it was made of glass. "I'll never forget." Gianna's voice softened. "He's not giving it to Sebastian Vale, the CEO." "I know. He's giving it to his dad." Sebastian's eyes welled. "That means more than anything I've ever signed." Later that day, Gianna found Isak sitting at the window, scribbling again. "What are you drawing now?" she asked. Isak didn't look up. "A memory." "From today?" "No," he said, coloring in the sky. "From the dream I had before I met him." She walked closer. "The same dream?" He nodded. "Only this time, he's smiling." Gianna knelt beside him. "Why do you think that is?" "Because he found us." She reached over and brushed a curl from his forehead. "You're right." Isak kept drawing, focused and quiet. Then, "Can we stay here forever?" Gianna's throat tightened. "Maybe not forever." He looked up. "But we can stay for as long as it feels like home." He nodded, then smiled. "It already does." That night, Sebastian stood alone on the balcony, sketchpad in hand. He flipped through every page, each one a record of what could have been lost, each one a reminder of what he'd nearly missed. Gianna joined him quietly, wrapping a blanket around both of their shoulders. "He's drawing a lot more lately," she said. "I know. He's healing." They looked out at the city, calm beneath them. Sebastian turned to her. "I think I am too." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You're doing better than most would." He looked down at the sketch pad. "I want to protect this." "You are?" "No," he said. "I mean really protect it. I want to be there for his first heartbreak, his graduation, his wild ideas, all of it." Gianna looked up at him. "Then stay." "I will." "Promise?" Sebastian held her gaze. "Yes." Gianna didn't need paperwork or headlines. This was the vow that mattered, spoken quietly, meant fully, and this time she believed it. The package arrived 2 days later. No logo, no fanfare, just a white envelope with both their names, Sebastian Vale and Gianna Vaughn, printed in clean, bold letters. Gianna stared at it from across the room as Sebastian set it on the dining table. Neither reached for it. "I don't need that paper to tell me anything," she said softly. Sebastian nodded. "Me either." But it was there, and it was real. Still, it sat untouched through breakfast, through lunch, and well into the afternoon. It wasn't until Isak wandered in, shirt smudged with crayons and peanut butter, that anyone moved. He pointed at the envelope. "What's that?" Gianna smiled tightly. "Just something from the lab." Sebastian met her eyes. "You ready?" She hesitated, then reached out first. He tore the seal. Inside, a folded letter, stapled to a lab report. Sebastian read silently, his hand tightening with every line. Then he passed it to Gianna. Her eyes scanned quickly, then froze. 99.98% probability. She looked up. "I knew," she whispered. "So did I," he replied. But seeing it on paper was something else, something undeniable. Isak stood in the doorway, watching them. He could sense something big had shifted, even if no one explained it. "Does this mean I get to call him Dad now?" he asked. Gianna blinked back emotion. "Only if you want to." Isak nodded. "I want to." Sebastian knelt and opened his arms. "Then come here, son." Isak ran to him, burying his face in Sebastian's shoulder. Sebastian held him tightly, protectively, like the years they'd missed could somehow be erased by the strength of that one embrace. Gianna looked on, tears sliding down her cheeks. Not from pain this time, but from relief. For the first time, her child could grow up without wondering who he came from, or whether he was worthy of being claimed. Now, he knew. And so did she. Later that evening, Gianna found Sebastian in the study, holding the deoxyribonucleic acid letter. He looked at her and smiled faintly. "You know, back when I was a kid, I used to dream of having a son." She leaned against the door frame. "Really? I imagined what he'd look like, what he'd sound like when he laughed, how I'd teach him to ride a bike, or defend himself with words, not fists." Gianna walked over, resting her chin on his shoulder. "You're doing that now." He exhaled. "I just hate that I wasn't there when he needed it most." Gianna placed her hand over his. "You're here now. And that's what matters." He looked down at their hands, hers soft, his calloused from years of building empires. "What do we do next?" he asked. She didn't hesitate. "We tell him the truth. The full truth." Sebastian nodded slowly. "And what about us?" Gianna paused. "That depends." "On what?" She looked up. "On whether you want to stay just for him, or because you still see me." Sebastian reached up, gently tracing the outline of her face. "I see you, Gigi. More than I ever did." That night, Isak sat between them on the couch, blanket wrapped around his legs, sketchpad resting on his lap. He looked up. "Did you always know he was my dad?" Gianna nodded. "Deep down, yes. Why didn't you tell him sooner?" She took a deep breath. "Because sometimes adults get scared too. I was afraid he wouldn't want us." Sebastian swallowed hard. "I made a lot of mistakes, Isak," he said gently. "But not loving you was never one of them. I just didn't know you existed." Isak frowned. "But I thought rich people knew everything." Sebastian chuckled. "Only what's on paper. But you were never just paper." Gianna reached for her son's hand. "He's here now, baby. And he's staying." Isak looked at both of them. "Then, I want a new drawing," he announced. He opened to a fresh page. "What's this one gonna be?" Gianna asked. Isak grinned. "Our family. No more missing pieces." The rooftop was dressed in candlelight and quiet jazz. Tall glass towers shimmered all around them, but none of it compared to the warmth flickering on Gianna's face as she looked up from her seat. Sebastian had transformed the rooftop of his penthouse into a secret garden, twinkling string lights wrapped around the steel, beams, ivy curling over the railings, and a single table for three placed in the center like it belonged there all along. It wasn't grand because of money. It was grand because of meaning. Gianna sat across from him, glowing in a simple red dress that danced in the breeze. Isak sat beside her, swirling a wine glass filled with apple juice and grinning like he'd just won the golden ticket. Sebastian raised his glass. "Sparkling water, nothing fancy. Tonight's we almost didn't get," he said. Gianna clinked her glass to his. "And the memories we won't forget." Isak lifted his proudly. "To my parents finally being on the same team." They all laughed, the sound echoing over the rooftop and into the city that never truly slept. After dinner, Sebastian stood and offered Gianna his hand. "Come." She gave him a curious look, but followed without protest. He led her to the edge of the rooftop, where the city lights stretched like stars across the earth. The wind tugged gently at her curls, but her heart was louder than anything nature could throw her way. "Do you remember the first time I told you I loved you?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "Right here, right on this rooftop. You brought me cheesecake and told me you couldn't imagine going another day without hearing me laugh." He smiled. "And then I went almost 6 years without hearing it again." Gianna's eyes softened. Sebastian turned fully toward her. "I thought I had lost everything when you walked away. I buried myself in deals, deadlines, distractions, but nothing filled the silence you left behind." She stepped closer. "And I thought I was protecting our son by keeping him from a world that hurt me." "You were," he whispered. "But now I want to protect both of you, not with guards or money, but with this, my word." He reached into his coat pocket. No ring, just a folded piece of paper. Gianna looked confused. He handed it to her. She opened it slowly. It was a letter, handwritten, a vow, not of ownership, not of rescue, but of intention. It read, "I cannot change the years I missed, but I will show up for every year ahead. I will be father before businessman, partner before pride, love not, because I lost you, but because I finally learned how to keep you. If you'll have me, not just as a title, but as your choice, I promise, this time, we stay." Gianna blinked fast, tears already forming. She looked up at him. "No ring?" He shook his head. "No ceremony, no spotlight. Just us, just this." Her voice trembled. "And if I say yes?" Sebastian stepped forward. "Then we go back to that table. We tell our son that this time he has a family that stays, no matter what." She nodded. Slow, deep, certain. "I say yes." They walked back to the table hand in hand. Isak looked up, chewing a marshmallow. "Are you guys getting married?" Gianna laughed. "No, baby. We're getting something better." "Like what?" Sebastian sat and pulled Isak onto his lap. "A forever team," he said. "No more missing birthdays, no more holidays apart, no more wondering if you're enough." Isak tilted his head. "So, you're really staying?" Gianna looked at Sebastian. He smiled. "This time, we stay." And then the laughter started, pure, uncontrolled, contagious. The kind of laughter that only lives between people who found their way through every kind of storm. Above them, the New York sky blinked with a million city lights. But down below, on that rooftop, a small family shined brighter. My amazing family, we've reached the end of today's story, but remember, love's journey continues beyond these moments. If this touched your spirit, let me feel you close by dropping "I am with you," Dr. Phillips, in the comments. Don't just watch Silent OY. Your words give life to this space. Hit the like button if your heart felt something today. And if you're new, subscribe so you never miss a story that uplifts and inspires. Share this video with someone who needs hope and strength right now. Until we meet again, keep holding on to love. It's our greatest light.